That stain in your toilet bowl is not your fault. I want to say that to you plain, before I say one other word, because I think you have been carrying the blame for something that was never yours to carry. You have cleaned that bowl 4 times this month. You scrubbed it down to white on Monday, and by Wednesday morning the brown ring was back at the waterline, creeping up out of the water like it had been waiting for you to turn your back. There is a sound a toilet makes when the water that runs through it is hard, and once you have heard it in your own house, you do not stop hearing it. The little rattle in the handle every time one of the children lifts the lid and lets it drop. The bar of soap by the sink, sitting in a puddle of its own slime, half melted, gone before its time. You wipe, and you scrub, and you buy the blue bottle, and the green bottle, and the one shaped like a gooseneck that promises to get up under the rim. And still it comes back, every single time, and you start to feel like the house is winning and you are losing. Now, I want you to sit with this. You did not clean it wrong. You are not lazy, and you are not careless. The people who sold you that brush and that bottle knew the ring would come back. They counted on it. That is why there is always a new bottle on the shelf next to the empty one in your hand. The answer was never in the bottle, and it was never going to be. And the truth of it is that the answer has been sitting in a drawer in your own kitchen the whole while, costing you about $1. There is a roll of plain aluminum foil at any dollar store for about $1, and the honest handful of things it will do around your house would replace a whole shelf of bottles that cost you $40 or $50 a year, every year, forever. A man with a clipboard does not come to sell you foil. There is no spokesman for it, and no jingle, and no aisle. And that, as you will see by the end, is exactly the reason most folks have forgotten what it can do. My name is Rachel Glick. I am Amish, and I keep house with my husband Amos here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, on the land my husband's people have farmed since they came over from the Palatinate in 1838. We have 7 children, and between the kitchen and the garden and the root cellar and the hen house, I have learned a few things from the women who came before me. My mother, my grandmother, the old women in our district who never threw a thing away because they could not afford to and would not have wanted to. They did not have a cleaning aisle. They did not have a bottle for every job. They had a few plain things and a great deal of knowing, and the knowing was worth more than the things, because the knowing is what you carry from one house to the next and from one mother to the next daughter. And I am going to be honest with you today the way I always am, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth your time. Before I go on, let me say one thing early. So it is said and done, and I am not stopping myself in the middle later. I have put my whole method down in one place, the whole way we keep a household for so much less than the English pay, and it is at rachelglick.com. The link is below this video, and I will not bring it up again. The old ways only help if you actually use them, and that is why my husband and I built our Amish home savings system and community, so you can work through the methods with us. Ask Amos and me your questions and stay at it alongside other households doing the same work. The link for that is in the description as well. And here is my honesty promise to you, the same one I make at the start of every video. I am going to tell you what this foil really does, and I am going to tell you plainly what it does not do, because there is a foolish video going around right now telling folks to drop balls of foil down into the tank behind the toilet. I want to be the one who tells you the truth about that. Dropping foil balls in your tank does nothing. Nothing at all. Some folks claim it shines the water or keeps the bowl clean by some quiet magic, and it does not. Worse than nothing, those little balls can come apart down in the tank and foul the working parts, the flapper and the fill valve, and on many a toilet, it will void the maker's warranty outright if a body comes to look at it. So you would have spent your afternoon making your toilet no cleaner and your warranty no good, and that is a poor trade. We will not be doing that. I would rather tell you the truth and have you trust me than sell you a trick that wastes your time. That is how my mother taught, standing at her own sink, and that is how I mean to teach you. So stay with me, because the real things foil does are coming, and the best of them is the silver, and I am saving that one for the right moment. Now let me tell you what is really going on, because once you see the simple sense of it, everything after makes plain sense. Here is the thing you have to understand about that ring in your bowl, because it is the heart of the whole matter, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The stain you see is not dirt. You can scrub it like it is dirt all the morning long, and it will sit there and laugh at you. That ring is mineral, lime, and iron, carried in the water itself, settling out of the water and hardening onto the porcelain. The very same way scale builds up inside a tea kettle you have boiled 1,000 times. My grandmother understood this without anyone ever teaching her a word of the chemistry, because she lived with hard well water her whole life and watched it crust the inside of every pot and basin she owned. She used to say the water was not dirty, it was full. Full of the ground it had come up through, full of the stone it had passed over. And you do not wash away a thing that is full. Washing is for what sits on top. This sits in. So here is the first honest use, and I want to be careful with you about where it helps and where it does not, because that honesty is the whole point. And a body who oversells a thing loses your trust the first time it fails them. Aluminum foil will not dissolve a heavy old mineral ring that has been building up since before you moved into the house. Nothing dry will. If you have got a stain like that, that is a job for a long soak with something acid, and that is another video. But on a surface where the buildup is just starting, the lip of a fixture, the rim around a drain, the bright metal of a faucet base where that white crust first shows itself, a piece of foil crumpled up and used gently will lift fresh mineral deposit and light tarnish, far better than any rag. And it will not scratch the way steel, wool, or a harsh pad will scratch. The reason is simple, and it is old. The foil is softer than the porcelain and softer than the chrome, but it is harder than the thin scale sitting on top of them, so it takes the scale and leaves the good surface underneath alone. The engineers have a fine name for using one material to wear away another that is softer than it but harder than the crust between. They call it differential abrasion, but we just call it using the right hand for the job. You tear off a piece about the size of your hand. You crumple it loose so it has ridges and points to it. You dampen it under the tap, and you work it in small circles over the spot, no harder than you would rub a child's back. That is all there is to it. About $1 for the whole roll, and the roll lasts a season and more. Now here is the one I promised you. The silverware trick my mother used every single spring before the worship Sunday came round to our house, because this is the prettiest thing foil does in all the world, and it costs you almost nothing. And I want to tell it slow, because the part most folks get wrong is right in the middle of it. And if you miss it, the whole thing fails. But first let me tell you the why of it, because this is not scrubbing, and you should know that before your hands expect it to be. When silver goes dark in the drawer over a winter, that dull brown-gray film is not dirt either. It is the silver itself joining up with a whisper of sulfur in the very air of the house, and the chemists call that tarnished silver sulfide. Now here is the plain magic of it. Aluminum wants that sulfur more than silver does. It is greedier for it. So when you put the two metals down, touching in hot water with a little soda stirred through to carry the current between them, the sulfur gets up off the silver and crosses the water and goes over to the aluminum, because the aluminum simply wants it more. The chemists call that a galvanic reaction, an exchange of the tiniest bits of electric charge between two metals, and we just call it one metal drawing the darkness off the other. You are not rubbing the tarnish away. You are giving it somewhere better to go. That is the whole secret. And once you have it, the steps make sense. Here is the parts list, and the total cost is about $1 all told, since you likely have most of it. 1 roll of plain aluminum foil. 1 box of plain washing soda, or baking soda, if that is what your pantry holds. A basin or a pan big enough to lay your pieces flat. Hot water off the stove. and the silver itself. That is the whole of it. Now I will tell it slow. Step 1. You line the bottom of a basin with foil, the bright side turned up. Step 2. You lay your silver right down on the foil. And here is the part most folks get wrong. So mind it. Every single piece must be touching the foil. And it is best if each piece touches the foil itself and not just the next fork. Do not pile them in a heap. If a spoon is only resting on top of another spoon and never touches the metal underneath, the darkness has no road to travel, and that piece will come out as dull as it went in, and you will think the whole method a lie when it was only that one spoon laid wrong. Step 3. You pour over them water you have heated good and hot, enough to cover them. Step 4. Into that water you have already stirred a heaping spoonful of the washing soda. Step 5. You stand there and you watch, because it happens while you are looking at it. The dark lifts up off the silver and the foil takes it down onto itself. There is no rubbing each fork by hand until your wrist is sore and your back aches from bending. A few minutes is all. Step 6. A rinse under clean water and a soft cloth to dry each piece, and your silver is as bright as the day it was given. My grandmother could do a whole drawer of it this way in the time it took her coffee to come up to a boil, and she would have it dried and laid back in its cloth before you had finished your first cup. Now the safety word plainly, because this matters, and it matters more here than folks expect. This bath is a wonder on solid silver and on silver plate, but it is hard on some things, and you must know which before you ever pour the water. It can dull certain soft finishes, the kind that are meant to look old and darkened in their grooves on purpose, because it will strip that darkening right out and leave them looking wrong. It should never be used on anything with a coating or a lacquer over it, because it will lift that too. And here is the one that will cost you a good knife if you do not heat it. It should never go on knives where the blade is set into a hollow handle with glue, your good table knives, because the hot water will work that old glue loose over time and you will have the blade coming away from the handle one supper down the road. So you use this on your spoons and your forks and your solid serving pieces. You keep your good knives out of the bath entirely and you wipe those down by hand the slow way. And one more word. The washing soda is harder on the skin than the baking soda, so wear a glove if your hands are tender, and keep the box up high and out of reach of the little ones, because it is not something for a child to get into. Being honest about what a thing can do and what it cannot, and where it can do harm, that is how you keep trust at your own table, and how I mean to keep it with you. Now let me give you the smaller true ones quick, because foil is generous that way, and there is no sense letting good knowing go to waste. The rattle you hear every time the toilet lid comes up or goes down, that clatter of porcelain knocking porcelain. No matter how many times you have gone at the bolts with a screwdriver, a small strip of foil folded over a few times into a firm little pad, tucked up under the hinge where the seat meets the bowl, will take up that loose play and quiet it right down. It is the very same idea as the folded scrap of cardstock my grandmother kept slipped under the short leg of her kitchen table so it would not rock. You use as much or as little as the gap calls for, until the wobble is gone. It costs you nothing at all, and you would be surprised what a quiet house feels like after you have been living in a rattling one and stopped noticing. The soap dish is the same kind of small mercy, and it is real money. A bar of soap left sitting down in its own wet melts away into slime and is gone in half the time it ought to give you. And so you are down at the store buying soap twice as often as a careful house needs to. Now folks will tell you to stretch a rubber band across the dish to hold the bar up, but then the soap rides up on top of that band and slides clean off into the basin the first time a child grabs at it. So do this instead. Take a square of foil and press it down into the dish to line the bottom of it. Then crimp the edges up around the sides so it makes you a little tray, and pleat a few ridges into the bottom of it with your fingers, So the bar rides up high on those ridges, and the water drains down into the channels between. The soap sits up out of the wet. It dries hard between washings instead of going soft, and a bar that used to last you a week and a half will give you near 3 weeks of use. And here are a few more quick ones. If you travel to see family and your good chain necklaces always come out of the bag in one cruel knot you have to sit and pick at, lay each chain out straight and flat on a strip of foil and fold the foil over to hold it there, and it cannot tangle because it cannot move. If you have a little jar or a bottle in your wash bag that always wants to leak, a cap of salve, a small thing of oil, set a square of foil over the mouth of it before you screw the lid down on top, and it will seal and will not weep out all over your good clothes. And on a faucet base or a shower head where the hard water crust keeps coming back no matter how you clean it, once you have got it clean, you can wrap that spot up in foil to slow the new buildup from settling in, much the way you would keep a cut apple from going brown by keeping the air off the face of it. None of these are miracles, and I will not call them miracles. They are small, true savings, set one after another, and that, not any one clever trick, is how a household is actually kept through a lifetime. Now let me do the honest math with you, the way I would at my own kitchen table, because I do not want you taking my word for it that this saves anything. Walk down the cleaning aisle and price it out. The bottle for the toilet ring runs $4 or $5, and you go through a few of those a year. The cream for the faucet and the chrome, another $4. The little jar of silver polish that costs $4 and smells like the dentist's office and turns your fingers black. A fresh tube of caulk and band for the soap that melts too fast. In soap alone, you are buying half again as much as you need. Add up the toilet bottles, the chrome cream, the silver jar, the wasted soap, and a careful tally for a normal household lands somewhere between $40 and $60 a year. And that is honest. Not a number I rounded up to scare you. The foil and the soda together cost you under $3, and they do all of it. Call it $50 saved a year. Low. Over 20 years of keeping a house, that is $1,000. And that is the small end of it. That is not about being cheap. That is about being free. A thing you must rebuy forever is a far better business for them than a thing you do yourself for pennies. And that brings me to who profits from you not knowing this, because I think you ought to see it laid out plain. Walk yourself down that cleaning aisle at any English store and stand there and count the bottles. There is a bottle for the toilet ring, and a bottle for the faucet, and a bottle for the silver, and a bottle for the tile, and a bottle for the glass, and a bottle for the wood. And if you turn them round and read the small print on the backs of them, you will find they are mostly the same few cheap things, dressed up in different colors with different smells and different prices and different promises. The company that fills those bottles and the store that stocks them do very well indeed. When you have come to believe that you need 12 different products for 12 different jobs, that a dollar roll of foil and 1 box of soda and a little patience would handle between them. And here is where I have to be careful with you, because I will not say a thing I do not believe. I do not say this to you as though there is a room somewhere with a long table where wicked men sit and plot how to keep you ignorant. It is not that. It is worse than that in a way, because it is worse than a conspiracy. Nobody ever had to sit down and arrange it. Nobody ever planned for you to forget what your great-grandmother knew with her hands. It just happened a little at a time over 100 years as the bottles got cheaper to make and easier to sell, and the knowing got easier and easier to let slip. There is good money in a thing a woman must buy again every month, and there is no money at all in a roll of foil she buys once and a piece of knowing she keeps for life and hands to her daughter. So the simple old methods sit quiet in farmhouses like ours. The forgetting is the product they are selling, whether they would put it that way or not. And the only way back from it is the slow way, one household at a time, one woman remembering on purpose and teaching the next. So here's what I want you to do this week, and start small. Buy the dollar roll of foil if you do not have one, and a box of plain washing soda. Tonight, before bed, take that crumpled piece and work the light crust off your faucet base, gently, just to see it go bright. Then this weekend, when you have a quiet half hour, line a basin with foil and do one drawer of silver, and stand and watch the dark lift. Because the first time you see it, you will not believe it. And fix your soap dish while the water heats. That is the whole of it for 1 week, and it will set you free of 3 or 4 bottles you will never buy again. Then come back and tell me down in the comments 2 things. Because I am honestly curious about the houses you all keep, and because hard water runs different from one place to the next. Tell me the county you live in, and how old your house is. The old houses with the old pipes carry that mineral different than the new ones do, harder in some counties than others, and I read every single one of those comments, every bit of it, and it teaches me things I would not learn any other way. And if you have an old cleaning method from your own grandmother, share it down there too, because those little family methods are exactly the kind of knowing that disappears when nobody writes it down, and the comments on this video are how we save them. The natural next step after today is the one I will show you next time, the way my mother kept a whole pantry of jars and tins from rusting and spoiling through a damp winter with nothing but salt and paper and a little care, and it is the natural thing to learn after this. So take the dollar roll, use it for the honest things, and skip the foolish ones, and now you know which is which. None of it is clever, not really. It is only remembered. The women who kept these houses before us were not one bit smarter than you and I are. They simply could not afford to forget, and so they did not. And everything they would not let go of is sitting right there on a dollar roll in your kitchen drawer, waiting all this while for you to reach in and pick it back up. The Lord bless you and keep you, and I will see you next time, if we are spared and willing.